Here. Okay. I will now call the meeting to order. It is 9:06. Welcome everyone to the panel review for artist project grants and visual art and craft. Thank you panelists on behalf of the commission for your participation in the panel meeting today. I would like now for all of the panelists to introduce themselves. We'll start with Annie.
Hi, my name is Annie Lee Zimmerly, and I am currently a professor of art at USM and the program director at Kate Cheney Chapel Center for Book Arts at USM. So I'm glad to be here. Great. And Tessa.
My name is Tessa O'Brien. I'm a painter in South Portland, and I'm also a co-director of Abel Baker Contemporary Gallery, among other hats that I take on and off.
Very good. And Lyle?
Hi, I'm Lyle Cargis. I am newly hired director of collections and exhibits at the Abbey Museum. And I have worked in museums and as a folklorist for a number of years out in Oregon, and also have a MFA in fine arts. Yeah, well-versed in cultural and visual fine arts. Taught a little bit in also at James Madison University before moving up here in the foundations department, teaching 2D, 3D, and art history. So, yeah.
Very good. And Diamond?
Hello, my name is Diamond Duryea. I also have a lot of hats that I'm throwing on and off all the time, but today I am taking the minutes.
Very good. Diamond has been working with the Maine Arts Commission for several years now in various capacities. And I am Julie Horn. I'm the Assistant Director and Visual Arts and Craft Director and Percent for Art Manager at the Maine Arts Commission. So like everybody else, we all wear many, many hats in what it is that we do. Guests, thank you for being here. As a reminder, we ask that you mute your mics, turn off your video, and do not use the chat box for the duration of this meeting. The panel process is important to the commission, and the applicants and panelists' involvement is key to the decision-making process and forming recommendations for funding. During the review, Diamond Duryea will be taking notes for the meeting minutes. The written notes will then serve as the public records of this process. We will be reviewing the applicants today in the order that was listed on the previously provided agenda. The process for today will be, first, I will call for the review of the application by name and ask for any abstentions due to conflict of interest. If you have a conflict, please do not enter any scores into the grant management system, but instead click the abstention option at the bottom and then save. You will leave the meeting room for the discussion and voting of that application. I will read a short summary of the application. The discussion will begin with comments directly relating to the evaluation criteria. These are the following: artistic excellence and artistic merit of the project plan, components, and outcomes. The project shows evidence of benefit to the applicant. The project shows evidence of community impact. The applicant shows strong capacity to complete the project successfully, and the application overall quality. You may use terms such as strengths or challenges when offering thoughts. If you have a question, be sure to ask other panelists and not the guests in the audience. After discussion, I will call for your final scores, after which no further discussion about the application should take place between the panelists. You will then enter your final scores into the system and click save. So let's begin with our first application. I'll call for review of Anne Alexander. Are there any abstentions? The project is to make a sculpture composed of 5 pieces in 5 different colors of granite and exhibited together publicly. They will carve from August to November and then continue until finished in the spring of 2022. The project dates are August 1st of 2021 to June 15th of 2022. The artist believes this project will advance their career. It says exhibiting the work publicly and promoting the project on social media will increase their prominence as a Maine and East Coast sculptor, leading to future opportunities for exhibitions. For the benefit to the public, they plan to exhibit in a few locations and to advertise it with press releases, social media, and postcards. Also, June Lacombe has agreed to exhibit in one or more of her outdoor exhibits. The artist is requesting $2,485 to be used for materials and equipment. She had first requested money to pay for a portion of her cost of living expenses, and I contacted her to explain that those are considered operating costs and are not eligible. Let's begin our review of Anne Alexandrou through the first criteria of artistic merit, plan, components, and outcomes.
Oh, Annie, you're muted.
No, I wanted to talk about actually her budget plan. I thought it was very clearly stated with materials, and even within the material, the dimensions of the size that she needs. So the budget plan was very clear for me.
Great.
Yeah, I would agree.
Oh, Lyle, I think you froze up on us.
I guess this is like one downside about relying on technology.
Lyle, hold that thought. And we hopefully will come back, or you will come back to us.
I thought that there was great consistency between artistic excellence and the way the plan was presented. There was clearly evidence of the ability to make this happen, and it was all very logically presented.
Great. Oh, I want to wait for Lyle to come back in.
Oh,
I wonder if we lost him altogether.
he
Perhaps.
might come back in. I don't.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one, and then we'll back around when Lyle is able to come back in. I'll keep an eye for him. Let's talk about the way they discuss the benefit to themselves.
Yeah,
Oh,
if
this
you
is
wanted
professional development.
to-
Oh, there you are, Lyle. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
sorry.
We're going to pause on the evidence of benefit to the applicant and go back to the first one, which is merit of the plan, components, or outcomes. Thoughts on that?
Yes, I did have a couple issues with kind of the kind of crux of the project, and in particular the forms that the artist is planning on emulating and using as a part of the sculpture. It was talked about, I felt like in the application, that using these pedal hatchet forms and making those forms in a variety of different colored granite to be representing kind of different races and cultures, and trying to kind of celebrate human diversity in that respect. But it was stated in the application that these forms are found throughout the world and are used in different ways. And so I hesitate about that kind of approach to the forms. Just for instance, in particular, in Mayan culture, these pedal hatchets are very spiritual in nature, and the hatchets are usually like a figure of a body. The handle is like a person, and where the head is usually where the stone is being inserted. And the stone is where it's piercing in the head it's like this spiritual awakening. It's like this very powerful, use of this form within this kind of particular object. And I'm worried that there's this appropriation of these different forms that are significant to a lot of different cultures, and there isn't a grounding of an amount of respect to like what these forms are and what they mean to different cultures. And I think just taking this form and not being sure how it's being represented in different cultures and used and thought about in different cultures, and just attributing it to saying that it's going to be used to represent humanity and diversity and cultural diversity, I almost feel like it's doing more harm actually than what the artist is actually trying to intend to do with this project and artwork. And so I am actually a little bit worried about how the artist is intending this project to be in using these forms. And so, those are some of my thoughts on that.
Great, very good, thank you.
Maybe perhaps like we do suggest a little more researching on, different forms, and even the stone. I do think the idea of doing race and diversity kind of an idea is great, because that is what's right now out there. We see it all the time in the media, but just the idea of using color difference in the stone, I mean, I feel like diversity can be a lot more than just that, right? Color itself. So yes, maybe some suggestions on researching and finding something a little more detail and depth.
Good.
I had a question about how evident the intention would be to someone just looking at it out in a public space.
Right. Good, very good. We'll go back to the, were they able to really give a good argument for how this was going to benefit their professional development?
I mean, it will definitely benefit.
I mean, certainly they were looking to get some equipment to help, make carving easier, more ergonomic, and beneficial for them. The ability to be able to display these objects in a gallery and things like that, is great. Obviously, that helps to create a body of work, and that's always helpful to an artist. Yeah,
good. Okay, moving on to the community impact. So I'll just say, even for our guests that are with us today, that we are using public funds, and part of that responsibility is that we ask that somehow you engage the community or main citizens in some way, because we are using public funds. So that is why that's an important component that we ask about. So how did you feel about their ideas about exhibiting, or other thoughts about how this is engaging the public?
I mean, I thought it was good that she already secured an exhibition, outdoor space where anyone can come, right? So it's obviously a place where open to the public, and having that secured and scheduled already was good.
Good.
Yeah, that was good. I think the application could have been a little bit stronger if they were partnering with some nonprofit or organization that was doing this kind of outreach to be more inclusive in communities, helping immigrants, or something where if the work's trying to highlight diversity and race equality, that I think it would have been a little bit stronger if it was actually partnering with or working with some sort of nonprofit or a cultural entity that was kind of doing this work and have it kind of grounded in that. I also saw this as like a potential opportunity too, that, you know, it seemed like the artist just learned recently, just going through an apprenticeship program to learn how to do this carving in granite, and incredibly skilled, and really see that she's really gravitated to this work. And I think it would have been stronger too, like this project could have been an opportunity to invite and work with different people from different cultures, and collaborating on like a form, and working with someone else to teach like this artistic, you know, carving. And so that it being this collaborative thing that she could have been doing with community members. And that would have made the work stronger. That would have made the project just so much more meaningful in the direction that I think the artist is wanting and intending for, but just because it wasn't quite there. And so, yeah, I think having an art exhibit is great. Like that definitely gets public outreach, but I think there could have been more thought about in terms of engaging the community in different ways that would have been meaningful for the project.
Good point.
Agreed.
Very good. Very good. Let's talk about the capacity to complete the project successfully. And if you could, maybe just point out one part that helped you feel confident about that, or that you felt would have helped you feel more confident about that.
I have seen Anne's work in the community and around the state, and have seen with my own eyes evidence of her ability to execute projects of various scales.
Okay. Okay. Very
I
good.
have yet to see it in person, but by reading her proposal that she's already has experience in completing similar stonework, you know, within the time frame. Yeah, I do also think it's, yeah, I'm confident that she's able to finish it on time.
Good. Very good.
Agreed. Yep.
Very good. So let's talk about the overall quality of this application. And that could be anything from punctuation and grammatical to, you know, did they answer the questions clearly? There were questions in the budget, or budget made sense for a project of this caliber. Or this is the opportunity to really give grantsmanship feedback to this individual.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah, laid out the budget very well. That was all good. And, you know, identified how it would benefit them for sure. But yeah, again, was just a little bit concerned about just the intent of the project and how it could possibly be doing more harm than actually good. And so I think, yeah, I think that was just the part that really got me.
Okay.
I think I have encountered this in my own grants and in other people's grants, where sometimes you try and put too much in there. I thought that the table lift was a really important part of her practice that was very practical, and clearly the cost of stone is, you can't argue with that.
Right.
So it was when with the racial equity part, I felt like at that point it became a bigger project that wasn't fully addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Annie, you already said that you thought the budget was laid out pretty well. I think that was your first thought on it. Did you have anything to add, or?
Well, in terms of budget, I thought it was good, even though we may think that there is a little missing piece within her idea of how she wants to approach this project. And then definitely we would love to see more, I guess, as an artist myself, like we have to intentionally engage community. You know, they don't come
Yeah.
naturally or easy. So that's another suggestion maybe I can give, right?
Yeah. Good. Very good. Any final thoughts? Okay. Diamond? You good? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores for Anne Alexander. Okay, and we will move on. I'll call for review of Rachel Alexandrou. Are there any abstentions? The title is called Forage Feast, and it's an ongoing series of place-based performative feasts taking place in Bar Harbor, Blue Hill, Eastport, and Rockland in conjunction with other art education events. Throughout 2021, they will collaborate with Maine artists to present feasts which serve the flora found in the place that they are held. They will offer them on a donation basis. They will engage a small group of artists who want to collaborate by hosting free private workshops in exchange for the labor to harvest and process the meal. The project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 30 of 2022. And they said that the project will advance their career. It says it helps them to cover all the costs required to make the feast. For benefit to the public, it says their project will benefit a group of Maine artists in learning about the practice of foraging and processing local food plants. The events are free and open to the public, and they hope it will generate a discussion around land stewardship and why it's important to maintain wild habits. The artist is requesting $2,500 to be used in several areas, including contractor fees, travel, and materials. So let's start talking about Rachel's application, beginning with artistic excellence or their plan or a specific component of that, or maybe the outcomes that they've listed.
I was really pleased with the geographic diversity within this proposal. It's specifically targeting more rural and smaller populations around the state that don't often get the same arts engagement. So I really appreciated that.
And I also thought the educational perspective of the project was really good. And the fact that once someone has experienced the event, they can always go back and do it on their own. There's that teaching component.
Yep.
Yeah, and that this really is able to engage children as well as adults, so that it's quite a range that can participate in this in terms of ages. And that's pretty exciting that, families can come and the children are engaged just as much as the adults to be able to participate, to eat, to kind of forage and all that, which is fantastic.
Right. Okay, how about, how did they discuss how it benefits them?
It was clear that they've had momentum in their career, and that being able to continue this project without gaps in year. I mean, 2020 was a gap for everyone, but I think it's clearly spelled out that this momentum is important.
Yeah.
And for artists too, the way she already has plans, like a lot of collaboration with other artists as well. So it's like building up that network and relationship within the art community, not just to the audience, but within artist community. So definitely beneficial.
Yep, good point. Lyle, oh good, you're there, you're with us. Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic.
sorry.
That's okay.
It's really windy here. I think it's like, I don't know.
my internet. So I'm wondering, I might just shut my video off. Hopefully that'll
Yep.
maybe help.
That is fine. If that's okay, I might try to check in with you to make sure though, because I can't see your face to see if you're going to say something.
Sure.
So I just check in with
I
you.
can raise a hand.
Okay, okay, that's great. Okay, we were talking about, Lyle, the benefit to the applicant. I wasn't sure if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yes, being, this grant would greatly help this artist be able to put on these workshops, doing this community engagement, and making it approachable for anyone to participate. You know, the artist wants it to be, you know, what people can afford to give so that anyone's able to participate in these workshops, which is amazing. So yeah, this is really enabling the artist to be able to do this work. And I see it as a great benefit for the different communities that they're wanting to visit.
Great. So that's our transition into talking about community. I know, Annie, you had talked about not only the larger audience, but also the community of artists, right? That they are involving. Other thoughts about the benefits to the public. I know they said it's,
you know,
it's pretty, oh, go ahead, Lau.
Yeah, just, you know, it's getting people, you know, I think outside again, getting in touch with their surroundings and understanding the ecology that surrounds them. You know, in this pandemic, we've been inside a lot. And, you know, just a beautiful way to get outside and be really engaged in where we are.
Yep, very good. Okay, let's move on.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Annie.
was also thinking like the impacting the local, I guess, community in a way that the practice of foraging and processing local, you know, food plants. So that's like what we have in Maine.
Yep.
So we're not, you know, bringing in from another state or another side of the world, you know, everything is here. So that also benefits, yes, the community, obviously, in general.
Yeah, good point. How about your feelings about their capacity to complete this project?
The fact that it's a continuation of events that have already happened gives me good faith.
Yeah, it sounds like she's very eager to start back up again. Things were planned and then was hold because of the COVID now. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And I also believe that the artist adapted and continued in various ways during, like, it seemed to me from the application that things didn't go totally cold, that there was some adaptation and updating of plans during the pandemic, which shows perseverance.
Yeah, absolutely. Lyle, did you?
Yeah, I mean basically I agree with all that.
Okay. How about the overall quality of this application? Things that tips that you want to give, things that stood out?
I was really pleased to see a reference to the wage guidelines in the budget. That shows research and ethical practices.
Yeah. Very good. You can also, at this point, comment if you have anything to say on what they've submitted. This is your, opportunity to say this worked, or go ahead, Annie.
I appreciated that she included some of the booklets. So it's not just an image, but we were able to read the description more in depth and the purpose of her project. So that was really good.
Yeah, it was also nice to see a little video too of just like
Mhm.
what the experience is for people participating, going out and foraging. So yeah, it was nice to get a holistic experience of what it would be like to participate in one of these events.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I do have just one note I'm seeing from my notes, which was the insurance line. I wasn't clear if that was for one event, and that seemed low. That was my only note.
Yep. Okay, so they could add more clarity there.
Just around the insurance.
Yep. Very good. Any final thoughts? Okay, Diamond? Okay, very good. So I'll ask for your final scores. Okay, we'll move on. I'll call for review of Judith Allen. Are there any abstentions? The project is called Mapping the Walk. It is to develop a video, lecture, and web presentation in support of their project, Mapping the Walk, a fine art book, an archive of botanical drawings. The book will be published in Greece this year and USA next year. Their focus now is on preparations for lectures, exhibitions, a video, and a web presentation of the project. The dates for that are July 1st of 2021 to May 5th of 2022. To advance their career, the project bridges visual art and natural history and has opened exciting new venues for their work. Book talks, lectures, exhibitions, and a video about the project will significantly broaden the audience for their artwork. The benefit to the public is the work touches on themes of historic preservation, ecology, natural history, geography, and art, and would be of interest to environmentalists, gardeners, botanists, and travelers. They're asking for $2,500 to be used for contractors and equipment. So let's begin talking about Judith's plan through a clear project plan or a specific component or the outcomes.
So I think the artist is very talented with the artwork that was provided. A lot of the sketches are really well done. Yeah, with the technique and see this being a very interesting project as a part of this book that's being published. And how long it's been of a process. You know, the artist has definitely demonstrated their ability to complete this work and how it'll kind of help propel the next phase of this project. Some of the things though that kind of flagged for me was just how the funds were being used. I mean, I guess we could wait till we get to the budget part of things, but I was a little concerned about, you know, there's this thought of making a video as a part of this project. And from what I can tell, looking at the budget, it looks like they're wanting to buy an iPhone Pro that I'm assuming that they're going to be used to film this video that they're going to do for this project. And then they flagged an iPad mini as well, that I'm assuming that they would put the video onto for an exhibit, and then hiring somebody but not clear like what exactly this person is doing for this video. And so yeah, the how the budget is laid out and what these funds are going to be used for me wasn't really laid out very clearly and make very much sense to me on how the money is going to be spent.
Good, very good.
Yeah, I also put that down on my notes that the timeline of the plan is very clear and good, but yet I do have a kind of a question mark on the budget details.
Good, okay.
Likewise, I thought that the project is bigger than the budget and has several different components.
Mhm.
I too wanted more clarity.
Okay, very good. Did you get a good understanding of how this was going to benefit the applicant?
Yes, because the publication of your work is, you know, big.
Yeah.
And artists, right? So yes.
Got it. Good, good, good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
that,
do like that for her book, it's already somewhat kind of in collaboration with a lot of libraries and, you know, permanent collections. So once the book is published, I'm sure it will be in a very good locations throughout the world. So
Yeah.
I thought that will definitely benefit the applicant as well.
Yep.
and segueing, you know, jumping off of that, it's clear that all of this is designed to reach more people through the lecture and having a clear web presentation, so that both benefits the artist and the community.
Great. So that is moving us right into community impact.
I was curious about the lecture piece of that, about sort of what it would focus on and who the audience was specifically.
Yeah. Okay, how about the strong capacity to do this successfully?
I felt that there was significant evidence proving a deep engagement with the content and continuity and artistic excellence.
Okay, good.
And this is a project that she's been working on for the past like 10 years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Mm.
yep. Big commitment there. It looks like we had lost Lyle, but I'm gonna try to bring him back in. Lyle, can you hear us? Okay, it looks like he's still trying to come back in. Lyle, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great. We hear you too. Fantastic. Did you want to have any comments about the capacity to complete this successfully?
Yeah. I feel like with how things were laid out in the proposal, a lot of things weren't very clear at all. There was a lot of, you know, things were very vague in relationship to how this video is going to function and work. It was talked about, you know, it could be part of lectures, artist talks, also having a social media presence, a variety of different things. And so those are all very different kinds of videos. I feel like if we're getting snippets as a part of a lecture that, that are like 2-3 minute short videos that are going to be sprinkled throughout a presentation, that's one thing. If you're giving like a background of like this whole entire project and how involved it's been and all this stuff, like maybe that's like a half hour or 45-minute thing. How these different videos are going to function are all based on how you're kind of prepping yourself in the pre-production end. And it wasn't clear to me how whoever this assistant was going to be, how they're going to function. Are they going to help storyboard? Are they going to help film? Are they going to help sound record? It looked like there was funding for an iPad or an iPhone Pro that, again, I'm assuming is going to be used as a camera to film this. Is the artist filming? Is the assistant filming using this camera? If so, like, what other equipment do they need? You simply just can't make a video just and hope to buy an expensive piece of equipment and that everything will be successful. Do you have a good microphone? Do you have a tripod or a monopod to be putting this camera on? Do you have the software to be editing the video after the fact? Who's responsible for what? And what are the final outcomes that you're wanting to have? And so there's just a lot of questions for me in relationship to this project. And then again, to have money spent on an iPad that I'm assuming the video is going to be displayed on in the event that this is going to be in an exhibit somewhere in an artist gallery, like, I think those funds for the iPad could be better spent on the production part of some good videos that will help propel this project and this book, to be able to do some good lectures and have a good online presence. But there's just too much uncertainty and unclarity, and I'm not confident that the artist is well versed enough in video production to make this happen in a way that is beneficial in what they're envisioning.
That also, I think you've answered a lot as well for your idea of the overall quality. It just sounds like you've still got a lot of questions there that haven't been answered. Just too many questions that you wish they would have gone into more detail about or explained better. Other thoughts about feedback on this, writing this grant?
I echoing a lot of Lyle's concerns. I believe the grant would have benefited from being significantly narrowed down to focus on one specific component of all of these different components of a larger project.
Mm-hmm.
And you could spend the entire grant on an assistant.
Yeah, it's true.
Relatively quickly.
Yeah. One videographer.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, then I will call for your final scores for Judith Allen. Okay, and we'll move on. I'll call for the review of Alyssa Alonzo. Are there any abstentions? The project is called Analog Alley Mural Project. It is a mural project in downtown Brunswick where 5 artists will each complete a mural along the alley off of 90 Union Street and the coffee shop dog bar gym. The public will be allowed to watch the painting take place and engage with the artists while they work. The timeline will coincide with the Brunswick Arts Festival. So the dates are July 1st to August 31st of 2021. And how it'll advance their career, it says it will expand their skill set, exposure, and networking. They will push themselves by using materials that they are new to and on a big scale. And they say, as a Mexican-American woman in Maine, they have struggled to become integrated in the local arts community, and this project will allow them to network and form relationships with other local artists. A benefit to the public, it says the project would help Brunswick become a destination for both tourists and locals. And it can inspire you that as they see works created live and in person. They're requesting $2,500 to be used towards the artist fees. So how about the artistic excellence or plan or specific parts of this?
I thought the mural project itself was fun and exciting for the community. However, I wasn't too pleased to see how, well, she's simplifying, which makes sense, I guess. So like $500 just going into individual artists, and there'll be 5 artists doing the mural. But at the same time, like, we have no idea how large the wall the individual artist is getting to create. I mean, and how many hours that it's gonna take. Because when you think about it, $500 is not much for an artist to do all that labor and creativity that will be displayed permanently.
Mhm.
So yeah, there are some of the things that I wanted to ask and wanted to know more.
Good.
I echo that. I also was concerned that there was no artist fee for the applicant, because that's an incredible logistic undertaking, especially to have 5 murals happen in 1 month. There's prep, there's the community outreach, documentation, all of the components that make a project like that successful. She's looking at hundreds of hours of her own time that's not being compensated.
Right.
So I struggle. I really love the idea of the project. I think it is beneficial to the community, to the artist, and to the artist painting, but I feel strongly that it's not enough money.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about the budget as well. And even too, just having funds allocated to really properly like prep the walls, like making sure that they're clean, that, you know, like power washed, getting primer on there. I think the proposal would have been successful had it a little bit more, had it been like reduced to the number of artists. So artists would be getting more money, and then having funds that were outside of their own personal budget to just do this kind of simple prep work. And then also sealing the murals after the fact. You know, it's not just simply prepping the walls beforehand to put the paint on, but then also making sure that they're being protected after the fact so they actually survive. The other thing that I was that I didn't feel was very clear, at least in the proposal, was I wasn't sure how if they were in conversation with the town council about, like, you know, creating these murals in this alleyway. I know they talked to the owners of the buildings, but it wasn't clear to me that they'd like spoken to the town council about like creating this space, and also talking to the Brunswick Arts Festival as well. That wasn't clear to me as well, that the artist was engaging the Arts Festival to have this be like a really important part of the festival. And I could see it being really important and integrated in an important way. But that end of things wasn't really clear to me. And so if there isn't backing behind the town council and like the Arts Festival, I'm worried, you know, that's a missed opportunity for this project, and ensuring that there is community support for it to get it on a good footing.
Yeah.
One other thing I flagged was having the public engage with the artists while they're working. makes hairs go up on my arms. And that kind of goes back to the logistics piece, which is I think the best engagement happens before and after the painting, but to expect the artist to also be accessible to the public while they're actually painting the mural, it doesn't serve the public well, and it doesn't serve the artist well. So really, I think the best scenario for that is a facilitated engagement, either talking about what you're going to paint or talking about what you have painted, but not during.
Good point. Good point. Okay. Okay. And how about discussing how this is going to help them professionally?
Well, she kind of clearly mentions that she's somewhat new to the area, right? And then trying to engage with the community and artists. So it will benefit.
That networking part. Yeah.
And just collaborating with other artists as well.
Yep.
And I don't know, I never been to that street, but if it was somewhat a street that's not as lively, like I do think having this mural bring more business, you know, and people come to that area, which will be definitely good, not just for the artist herself, but then I'm kind of jumping into the next category, but even to the community impact. Yes.
Okay. All right, well then why don't we jump into that then? Let's talk about the community impact. Tessa, you said the description of allowing people to engage while it's happening makes you a little nervous or beyond nervous.
Yeah, I think mural projects and murals can be really powerful or a missed opportunity. And I think a lot of it has to do with all of the things that go in conjunction with the actual art on the wall. So I think if people have buy-in, if the community is excited about what's happening and they know what's happening and they can walk by the mural and talk about it with other people and say, oh, you know, those plants are, you know, the local flora and fauna, or this is such and such figure from the community, or I think the more that the public knows about what's happening, the more impactful it is, regardless of what the content is. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I can't see you, but I want to check in with you.
Yep. No, yeah, I agree with all that. And I think there is really a good benefit, not only for the artists and the community to have this mural project be really impactful and meaningful. And just again, it wasn't clear to me through the application that the artist has engaged, you know, like the city council or town council or, you know, the arts festival to be getting, you know, to have these kind of community conversations about, you know, how this will all be. For me, it sounded like through the application, it was like the artist had talked to some other artists to potentially do murals and that they're free to kind of do whatever they want. And I think in order for this to be a successful community project, that there needs to be a little bit more community involvement in the beginning, in its foundation.
Great. So talking about the capacity, thoughts on that? And again, if there's a specific area or something in the application that makes you question it or, you know, feel confident that this is going to happen successfully. Thoughts? I know the budget, it seemed like there was some discussion in the budget about the amount being paid, is that part of makes you wonder how well this will happen, or are there other parts that made you wonder?
I think the applicant is an excellent painter, and a lot of public art projects have that barrier of, if you haven't done it before and you don't have evidence of a mural that you've done, it's hard to get your first mural. And that, that's unfortunate, but it's also, even if I would have liked to have seen even like a painted 4x8 sheet of plywood as like a sample of trying scaling up, and evidence that there's real commitment to making this happen one way or another. It's from the tone of the application, I believe that there's a lot of enthusiasm and dedication and eagerness to make this happen.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say no because I haven't seen one, but I would like to see.
Yeah, I agree. The whole time I was thinking, I really hope this happens.
Yeah.
I was rooting.
Yeah.
But yes, it would have been nice to see a little more detailed proposal, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wasn't as worried about like the painting aspect of it, but yeah, what was concerning for me was just the very small budget that each artist was being given, and really unclear about like what the intent was for the final pieces. I mean, some mural projects I've seen, people need to get scaffolding, because they want to paint really, high. And again, not thinking about how much prep needs to go into, I don't know how well these walls are, what needs to go in to get them prepared to be able to put on a mural. And then, ultimately what happens if this is a first mural project for someone, and they have these grand ideas and they start painting, and that $500 runs out. Like, what happens? Who's responsible? Is the artist gonna then put in funds to finish it, or are they gonna just drop it and stop it, and and then something's left unfinished? And so I think that if there were less artists involved, either just one or two, more funding put towards them for supplies, but then again, having funds be funneled towards just the prep and other things to ensure that a mural will be finished at the end. I think doing one or two would be more successful than trying to do five.
Got you. Okay.
So it will also run into insurance. The building owners will want evidence that they will not be liable for anything that happens, and so there's at least a couple $100 out of your $500.
Yeah. Very good. So this is good. Let's talk about the quality. If you were to specifically on writing a grant, what feedback would you give? Sort of the top overlying thoughts.
Definitely, break down into details. And I do feel like there's still like a little bit of a researching that's kind of missing, kind of a prepping, like before jumping into a big project.
Yeah.
So that'll be suggested. And
Okay.
definitely, yes, less artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think getting the city or town council on board, as well as the Brunswick Arts Festival on board with this as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, making sure there's this community involvement that's happening beforehand. And yeah, I could see this being maybe once a year, you know, one artist is funded for a mural, like each year. Like, I think that would be completely successful and manageable with the budget and the amount of time, you know, that would go into it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good.
They
Any
could
thoughts?
also partner with like Habitat for Humanity or a local painting contractor.
Yeah.
If they could get someone to donate prep and getting the wall ready, that's a great community collaboration that could also save the project some money and build community.
Totally. Yeah. If someone could like power wash the wall and, you know, like get it all prepped up, ready to go, like, yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Any final thoughts? Okay. How you doing, Diamond? Good. Okay. I'll ask for your final scores. We are now at a little after 10. Would everybody like to take a break? Keep going. Break is good. Tessa, I saw you nod your head.
I could do either.
Well,
Yeah, I guess could keep going, I guess.
One more and then take a break.
Sure, one more
Okay.
and we'll take a break. That
that
sounds
sounds
good.
great. So I'll call for review of Lynne Barr. Are there any abstentions? Okay, the project is Telling Stories, and it is to create an exhibition focused on theism and atheism in a public space. It will include a large installation that allows visitors to share their opinions with others. The show will happen in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. It's from September 3rd to October 21st of 2021. And it will include a large structure where viewers are encouraged to write on the walls to share their own personal views pertaining to religion. Again, the project dates are September 3rd to October 24th of 2021. And to advance their career, it says, hopefully this project will demonstrate their ability to produce a meaningful body of work and encourage other venues to support their efforts. The benefit to the public, says, writing on the walls is an opportunity to read others' opinions around religion and reflect on their own views. They're asking for $2,500 to be used towards contractors and material costs. So let's start out talking about artistic excellence, plans, and any outcomes that they've discussed.
One thing that stood out for me with this one is understanding, like I was well into the grant before I saw the images, and specifically the one that shows the scale of what has already been completed. And I was unclear up until that point how far along this project was. And at that point, seeing the final image, I think, of most of these already completed in the studio, at that point, I went back and reread everything with that knowledge. So I was very impressed with the scale of the undertaking, and the fact that it has a place to go and it's well into its completion.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it was really seeing the finished artwork, knowing how far this has really been completed. A lot of it's completed, and it's just kind of getting these final steps of final installation completed, as well as, you know, making crates and other things to successfully transport these final objects to to the venue, yeah, was very impressed with the quality of the work that's a part of the show.
And the purpose of the grant was very clear.
Mhm.
So that was, yeah,
Yep.
nice to understand right
Mhm.
away. And that the artist already has kind of like a deadline that's ahead.
Yeah,
We can see
Right.
that it's definitely getting completed successfully on time, the
Yeah.
way, yeah, the timeline works. So that was good to understand as well.
good. Did they discuss how it's going to help them professionally?
I mean, again, I would think so, because I think the artist kind of explains that she's shifting, kind of being a full-time artist from another field. So definitely having a solo exhibition, right, at a gallery space is huge. But yet, for me as now a person in Maine, I wish she will venture out and have more venues here locally rather than just being in New Hampshire.
Yeah, and she states too that, you know, she's older. The artist is older, and so how that is, that can be really difficult. You know, it's difficult to break into the art scene anyways, and then especially someone who doesn't have an extensive background or history of you know, work being exhibited. It can be incredibly difficult to break through, and I think yeah, the venue where they're showing in, it's they see the merit of the work, and the work really shows the artist's talent, and so getting this solo show, having this completed and be really successful will certainly help the artist propel their career in ways that you know, just wouldn't be available not having a show like this be successful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I also think outreach will be really important with this kind of debut. It looks like it will be an incredibly strong show, and I think they included marketing in the budget. I'm not
I don't
sure.
know.
It's not in the budget, but is it mentioned?
I don't know, but the budget is mainly for
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a note here about the importance of making sure that people in the art community know about this show, and maybe that's something I would add.
okay,
Not
Okay.
not to the budget. I think the budget is actually very clear and good, but in order to get the most benefit for their career out of this.
yeah. So let's talk about the community impact, and maybe if you would talk about what that community is, or how you're thinking of community. Or did they tell you what community they're talking about? Other than an idea of sort of a general public, or maybe that's the intention, that it just be.
I did have a line that I flagged in here, which was saying, I hope that people attending other events who may not ordinarily visit art galleries, as well as those who do, will visit my show and participate. And I think that hope is not enough to get people in that don't come to art galleries. So I think that that's also part of the outreach is,
Yeah.
I would have appreciated a line about what you are doing besides hoping that people come in.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
specifically how, and then another suggestion I have will be because she's telling stories, it's very narrative based project, even though the piece looks very abstract and somewhat in the form. I can see like being a visiting artist in local schools or universities. Yeah, so outreach, reach out and connect.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of people will be interested in learning and hearing more about those stories.
Good.
Yeah, and especially with the work being kind of centered around kind of religion and kind of authority and own, like the artist's own opinions about religion, other things like that. Like, yeah, I think these topics are kind of being discussed a lot. And the ability to have people write down their thoughts as a part of the exhibit within this large form. I am sure there will be some very diverse feedback based on that. And I'm sure will spark different kinds of conversation. And yeah, I think we'd just be interested for the artist to kind of think about and mull over like how what gets generated within the exhibit, how to manifest some healthy conversations and dialogues through that. And so I think there's a potential for some very different kinds of engagement. But yeah, don't see that kind of like fleshed out quite as much other than just people coming to attend the show. I think there's a lot of potential and just encourage the artist to kind of think about some different ways that that could manifest outside of the gallery.
Okay. Okay. Talking about the capacity to complete the project, I know that this was brought up at the very beginning, which is, Tessa, I think you said, this is basically complete for the most part, right? So it really just focuses on getting it there. So obviously that makes you feel like it's going to, definitely going to happen. Is there anything else you guys want to add to that makes you feel confident? This is definitely gonna be in front of the public.
The artist, yeah, has completed everything. I believe the show isn't opening until September. Yeah, it's September. So
Yeah.
a lot of time from now until then to be kind of getting everything prepped for shipping and installation. And again, the quality of the work that's already been finished leads me to have faith in the artist getting all this installed and brought to the venue safely.
Okay. Okay.
Agree.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the overall quality. I know you said the budget was pretty straightforward and clear. Any other feedback on the grantsmanship here?
I appreciated in looking at the description of the project, I appreciated the amount of information about the concept and the components, but I wish I had known earlier in the grant some of the like hard facts of the project. Like my project is under contract. I have completed 9 of the 12 sculptures. You know, that kind of nuts and bolts right up front would have helped me wrap my head around it sooner.
Okay, yeah. Any thoughts on the support material that was given?
Her sample works. I mean, the images were excellent. I thought it was very clear. And even though I'm not in person to, obviously the exhibition has happened yet, but I can envision how the installation will look in the space of the gallery. So that was really good.
Good.
Yeah, agreed.
Any final thoughts? Okay, Diamond. All right, so I'll call for your final scores for Lynne Barr. And it is now 10:21. So how about if we take a 5-minute break? Does that sound good for everybody?
That sounds great.
Wonderful. I'll see you back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll call for review of MJ Benson. Are there any abstentions? The project is called Plein Air Pigments and Public Engagement. And the project is to do plein air painting on Casco Bay and the islands using indigenous earth materials as pigments. They hope to exhibit the completed work in person and online. Project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 1st of 2022. They believe this project will help their career. So this is a new direction for their work, integrating locally sourced pigments to deepen the connection with the land. And it gives them more conceptual and public engagement experiences as opposed to their usual practice. As a benefit to the public, says teachers and artists will benefit from their field guide of earth and plant pigments. The act of plein air painting will bring them and their process to the public eye, where people can engage by learning more about art and its materials, as well as the Maine coast. And they will post a schedule of public places they'll be working on their website and newsletter so that people can join them. They're requesting $2,500 to be used for several things, which include materials and marketing. So let's begin discussing MJ Benson as far as their artistic excellence plan, any specific component within there, or the outcomes that they've listed.
Yeah, I think their artwork is really interesting, kind of very abstract, but you can tell it's like inspired by place. So yeah, a really interesting, at least example set from the artist. So yeah, really interested to see like, you know, where they would go with this plein air project, and envision them being very successful at this project based on the work that they submitted.
Oh, good.
Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lyle.
One thing I was a little concerned about is, you know, that a big part of this project is foraging for pigments in nature. And, you know, they just kind of throw it in there that they'll be ecologically conscious, but I think I would have liked to have had a little bit more of an understanding of like what that actually meant, especially with the artist mentioning that they're hoping to create like a pamphlet or a booklet that is telling people, you know, how to make different pigments from specific places that the artist is visiting. And was just a little concerned about how do you make sure people are being ecologically responsible when harvesting these materials in public places. A lot of, the national parks here ask for people to not be taking things from the landscape. And if the intent is to be going to specific places, taking materials from these places in order to make pigment, I worry how that could maybe do a little more detriment to the area if that isn't really talked about, if they're giving public talks or giving these pamphlets or booklets out.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tessa.
this is another one where I felt like there were two parallel projects, one being an exhibition of plein air painting and public engagement while plein air painting, and two being the experimentation, research, development, and publication of a guide to pigments. And I felt it's not a long application, and I felt like I wanted more information about either / both of the components. And it said there will be seeking additional funding for the resource. So yeah, I had questions about the balance of both of those when either could be a fully realized project independently. And the other thing I flagged was the inviting people to engage with you while you're painting is like the mural painting. It's hard to get painting done when you're engaging in public. and I think I wanted that piece to be maybe a workshop or something more structured engagement. And also for your sake, for the artist's sake, part of the joy of plein air painting is being able to wander and sort of go where you will. And so being sort of tied to the schedule that you're publishing, that people may or may not be visiting you in such and such spot, I feel like that could be challenging to your practice to have that sort of
Yeah, no, I agree. And exactly, like, what are these public engagements going to be? Is it about plein air painting, or is it about making pigments? Because yeah, those are two very different things. And if you're trying to talk about both, it seemed like in the proposal and the budget, there's indication that pigment processing needs to happen within a specific space. And so that they wouldn't be necessarily doing it on site, or maybe not all the time, but just because they indicate that in the budget, it made it seem like to me that they would be harvesting materials, bringing it back into a space, processing the pigments, and then bringing them back out again. And so wasn't quite sure what the community engagement aspect would be. Yeah, that part was kind of unclear.
Okay.
I also agree, like the proposal itself, to me, the integrating the earth plan pigment was actually more interesting component of the proposal and project, but yet that was the portion that was unclear. It sounded as if it was still in the experimental stage, where maybe it's not even ready to be, brought out and used during plein air sessions. So maybe, yes, choosing one over the other and just focusing on that'll be much better.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I was also unsure too, like what kind of paint are they hoping to make? And how much experience do they have in making their own pigments and paint? That was a little bit unclear to me as well about what kind of pigments they're hoping to make.
Yeah, That's like Annie said, it all just feels very much like it's in the experimental stage.
Right. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So how is this benefiting the artist?
I mean, if it is still in the researching and experimental stage of finding out the pigment and learning, I do think getting more experience of this will be tremendous, you know, for the artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, it's very exciting to be, you know, processing pigments of paints and then, you know, from the land, from the area that you're like at, and then painting, you know, the landscape, you know, from these materials that you've harvested and made, you know, that just brings a very unique and interesting dimension to the work. And so that, yeah, I see the potential of it, absolutely. And understanding just, yeah, the natural resources that are here in Maine, and what sorts of pigments and paints and colors you can achieve through the landscape. You know, all of that is incredibly interesting. Not only, yeah, for the artist and their particular practice, but you know, just yeah, for other artists or botanists or, you know, geologists, other people, I see this, you know, benefiting, you know, it is really interesting.
Agreed.
That kind of leads us into community impact, actually. Lyle, you had mentioned, and sort of informing the larger community about how to do this or what it's like to do this. Any of your thoughts on, and also it was brought up sort of, and Tessa, I know you had said, you know, what kind of engagement, or Lyle, you said this as well, like what kind of engagement actually happens? Is it really engagement? Is it passive observation? Those type things. Other thoughts about sort of community involvement in this?
I mean, the educational component of sharing this knowledge, or even sharing the journey, there is a line for social media marketing and outreach, and I think like sharing videos of the learning process would be fascinating. And you know, approaching it as an artistic experiment and an extension of her, you know, the growth of the artist's practice. I always think it's so generous and exciting when artists share their discovery process. So that could be really wonderful, and it seems like that is part of the intention.
I thought the workshop, I mean, just having or giving workshops to the community or schools will be excellent, you know, outreach to the community. And another thing is, because this is also a plein air painting, so like instead of going alone, I mean, why not group of artists, like invite other artists who do landscapes and do as a group. So I can kind of see that community building up. So a lot of potential. Yes.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
And yeah, again, just in the budget, just indicated that they would be potentially bringing back materials to their studio or some sort of space in order to process these natural resources in order to make paint, and could so easily see some sort of public invitation, you know, being, you know, people being brought into this space, or at least, you know, somewhere close by to show how people are processing these materials to create pigment. And so, yeah, I think there's a variety of different ways of engagement. And there's just, yeah, almost, yeah, just a little bit more of a narrowed focus on what the artist wants to do, you know, with this project.
Okay. And then how about the capacity to complete the project? Annie, I know you've discussed this is it's so experimental. They say they hope to exhibit the completed work in person. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the artist has an exhibition history and
Yep.
has a deep portfolio of work that shows experimentation and development over time.
Good.
Yeah,
Very experienced painter. I mean, looking at the examples of landscape. So in terms of, I guess, completing the paintings in generally speaking in plein air perspective, I mean, I don't think I question, but it's the other side that I do question about pigment.
Okay. Okay, and the overall quality of their grantsmanship.
I would say that the budget reflects that sort of split intention that I felt from the grant overall. Like the exhibition expenses along with the expenses of developing the pigment sort of knowledge and experimentation and travel for plein air. I wonder if like a workshop in there or like hiring a guide or some deep focus in either or of like first getting everything you need in the pigment department and then the exhibition comes later. And I understand the practical realities of, you know, it's expensive to put on an exhibition and grant funds are helpful for that. So I'm not faulting that, but for the clarity of this grant's purpose, it may have been more convincing to have it all be one or the other.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, agreed. You know, especially, yeah, I think if there was just specific focus on the development of the pigments and experimentation of the processing, and even just having the artist, create samples at the end of just like how these pigments work. And again, just experimenting with, you know, are you making watercolor? Are you making an oil based paint? Like what kind of a paint are you hoping to achieve to work with out in the field? You know, is it a tempera? You know, like what? And so experimenting with that, and I could see that being incredibly successful at the end, that once you've done all this experimentation, then you can really understand what your constraints are and you know, areas that you can kind of push and play with, to then bring that outside and be doing some plein air paintings of landscapes using these pigments, you know, from these particular places. But yeah, I think there's just a lot left in the development part of the pigments that you know, I think needs to have more time and energy focused on.
Any final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores for MJ Benson. Are you good, Diamond? Okay. Next, I'll call for review Kim Bernard. Are there any abstentions? The project is Pedal Shredder. And if the project is to build a stationary bicycle shredder as a continuation to their previous recycling machine project, the bicycle will allow people to physically operate the shredder while learning about recycling plastic into sculpture. Project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. To advance their career, it says this project has already given them media coverage, speaking engagements, and teaching opportunities. And to benefit the public, it says it will give people access to free public sculptural installations, and they can participate in the creative process by collecting plastics for recycling. It raises awareness of how important it is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And it includes educational collaborations with local schools, art centers, and museums. They're requesting $2,500 to be used towards equipment. So let's begin discussing them through artistic excellence, their plan, specific components, and what they said the outcomes will be.
I appreciated that this was a continuation of an existing project, and it was clearly spelled out what the funds were for and how that specific component was part of the larger thing.
And the fact that this pump project is almost like 95% finished. So it's very close to being completed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo that sentiment that the artist has demonstrated, you know, through examples of work and listing of workshops and other kinds of things that they've put on, how much, this is a working project. This is something that has engaged a lot of people and produced a lot of interesting work. And this is just another tool for people to use to be able to participate in the creation of work. And so, yeah, it's just this addition to an already successful project, which is great.
Great. And how is this, how we discussed the continuation of this to be a benefit to them professionally in their development?
I mean, completing this component makes the overall project stronger and sort of continues the momentum that the artist currently has in their career.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it just allows more people to engage in the work, in the creation of it, or workshops or other things in some different ways. You know, it just affords the artist more opportunities to be putting on workshops and demonstrations and putting on shows. And again, it's something that all ages are able to engage in, which is really wonderful. Children and adults, which is fantastic.
Well, that kind of leads us into the community impact, talking about the different age groups that are involved with this.
I really appreciated how the applicant outlined each of the components in this application. The access to free public sculptural installations, participation in the creative process, workshops where students are participating, educational collaborations, a physical object.
Yeah, and then this is kind of like a piece that where public can actually like hands-on experience rather than observing. So there's that interaction like physically, you know, and personally with the piece.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and it really engages the public too, to really really envision like the potential of like a material and an object, and it being able to be repurposed and reused and given a different life, you know, based on its form or color or, you know, other things like that, that oftentimes, you know, artists are always kind of looking at like the potential of an object. And I think being able to invite more people into that process is really exciting and important, and just opens up people for possibilities in different ways, which I think is really important for everyone to be experiencing more.
Good, good. How about their capacity to complete this? It's part of an ongoing project.
The images and documents provided were ample evidence of both completed physical projects and public engagement projects.
Yeah, have complete faith that yeah, the artists will be able to complete this and utilize it in their work.
Good. How about the last, which is their overall quality of this application? Then you can sort of, I think it's always helpful to get feedback on the support materials that they provided.
Yeah, the images are very high quality. I appreciated the clarity in the budget, that it was, you know, clearly this is a big project with a lot of other costs and components, but it was explicitly specified that the grant funds would be used for this one part of it.
Yeah, it was very clear, I mean, throughout the whole proposal, what and how it's going to be used, and that it's almost like as if like we see the project getting finished, you know, it's so close.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you exciting. Oh, I would love to see it. One thing that I do wish that I did see was more like an artistic aestheticness of the piece, because the whole time I was reading, to me, it felt as if like I was reading a science project, you know, piece rather than like an art project, even though there's a sculptural installation that may come later, you know what I mean? So it would be nice to see, yeah, a little bit more of that artistic side of the project rather than it's all about, I mean, recycling and upcycling, those are all great, but yet, yeah, I kind of miss that art portion.
Yep, good point.
And I think they showed some examples of like some of the machines that have already been built, but I'm assuming that, you know, the pedal shredder that they're hoping to make with these funds, you know, the examples that they show look like they're all kind of plug-in mechanized apparatus for the processing of the material. And so would have loved to have seen just like a kind of a sketch, an idea of like what like the piece would look like. Again, I feel confident with some of the other examples that they've already shown as final pieces in processing the work, but I didn't see, you know, I think it would have been nice to have a sketch because I don't see something that's pedal powered in any of the examples.
Yep. Okay. Any final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores. Okay, I'll call for review of Jennifer Booher. Are there any abstentions? The project is stained glass windows of Mount Desert Island, and they will create a book of photographs about stained glass windows of Mount Desert Island. The work is presented in historical context, fabrication details, and local history. It will also function as a guidebook. They will begin contacting publishers about it in the future. Project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. And to advance their career, they said it will help publish their reputation, it will help establish their reputation as a photographer. And if the book is successful, it could lead to future projects that merge photography and history. A benefit to the public is it will document the windows and function as a guidebook. They have been invited to give a slide talk to the congregation, and they donated photos for their use during services. And their research notes will be archived at the Historical Society. The artist is requesting $2,500 to be used primarily for travel. So let's talk about the artistic excellence here, the plan they've laid out, and any specific components of it.
This is another one that's well underway, which I appreciate. And there's documentation both, in the images submitted and in the collaborations that have been noted, the research that has been noted. It's clearly something that the artist is very invested in at this point.
Yeah, very well organized. Already like a portion of it has kind of been like published and finished to a degree, but needing to have these funds to continue on, which is great. Already ample success, and a very clear about their intentions for the budget, how they're going to be spent, really utilize this time during the pandemic to be kind of doing a lot of legwork and reaching out and figure out where they needed to go, who they needed to talk to in order to kind of complete this project. So very well laid out, very clear in relationship to what they want to achieve for this project.
And I also appreciated the purpose of even publishing the book. It's not just gaining her reputation, but yet this will be archived for the future generation. Like some of the, elements that she's talking about may not even be around.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a greater kind of a purpose in completing this book.
Very good. So have they discussed the benefit to themselves in doing this? How does this propel, how well did they discuss how well this propel their career?
I mean, she does talk about how so far her photo essays been in journal, but nothing in this caliber of book, a chapter after chapter. So definitely, yes.
And it will, there's some expectation that it will be an income stream, if not a huge one. It will provide some royalties ongoing.
Yeah, and this work, started with them being as a part of an artist in residence, and with the completion, full completion of this research, would just demonstrate to other potential artists in residencies to be bringing this artist in to be, delving into either similar kinds of work or other work, but just demonstrates this artist's capability to really follow through with a project and come out with something really meaningful and powerful as a result.
So let's talk about the community impact and what community or communities did they bring up in the application?
A big one that stood out for me is that as Annie mentioned, some of these buildings will no longer exist likely in the near future. So there's that public archive of local history, and then giving slide talks to the congregation. So that's a actual planned engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so often I feel like, churches and communities, they're these structures that kind of get driven by a lot by most of the community, but don't really know the history of them. And so to provide a publication that allows local individuals to really understand different facets of the history of where they live is really important. And again, these are structures that kind of get passed by, and so it's nice to put a lens and a focus on aspects of these spaces, and focusing on the particular artistry that are involved with churches and stained glass. It's something that doesn't really get the attention it necessarily deserves by the artist. It's a part of a structure, and so it kind of gets easily overlooked. So it's nice to kind of bring a highlight to the artists that participated in these works.
Good.
I can also anticipate future engagement with different communities. It seems like now the artist is paying attention to these things, and I imagine that won't just shut off. So this could evolve into researching the churches of other communities and other buildings, and keep sort of expanding that knowledge in a visual way to the public.
Very good. Okay, how about your feelings about their capacity to finish this?
I mean, she clearly lays out her schedule, like where she wants to go and travel and meet. And I also appreciated that not only that she mentions the city, but actual specific organization and location, and how it ties with obviously her research and project.
Yeah.
So that was very clear. And not only that she has that component, but even on her breakdown on her budget, like how long she'll be staying in one location. So that was very helpful to see the timeline of, how long it will take her for her to read and research while she's at a location.
Great.
Yeah, I also appreciated in the budget, in relation to her likelihood to complete the project, she did say, I will be applying for other grants. If I don't receive them, I will modify the plans, downgrade the hotel. And it won't stop the project if I don't get additional funding, but it will slow me down. And I think that's a very realistic outlook. And saying that shows that, she's very dedicated and will problem solve accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, and her success of already doing a photo essay and working on a museum exhibit, all those things have very, important deadlines, copy editing, making sure images are at the right resolution, just all the stuff in order to create a book at the end. Feel very confident that they will be successful in finishing the project.
So how about the overall quality of this application?
Very good.
It was well planned. And good examples. I mean, I kind of wish that we had seen a little bit more detail shots. She only included a few images, I think, but I would, wanted to see a little bit more in detail shots, but that's about it.
You'll have to buy the book.
Yeah, just a teaser.
That's how I get access to the same copy.
Very good.
Yeah, just overall, just incredible detail with where the money was going for this project, really breaking down everything incredibly well, and really demonstrated an effort to finish this project, already having a good amount of it completed. So yeah, it's just a really, really well laid out proposal.
Good. Any final thoughts?
Just also the inclusion of a letter of support is something that is not required, I believe.
That's correct.
But it does show sort of all of the different relationships that are invested in making this project happen, which speaks volumes.
Yep. Okay, I'll call for your final scores. Okay, and we'll move on to Cole Caswell. Are there any abstentions? The project title is Rise. It is a photographic investigation of Maine's coastal landscape that will be lost to sea level rise. They will use a wet plate technique to depict the places. They plan to have a body of work by the winter and then follow up with the production of exhibition prints and framing. Project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. As far as advancing their career, it says it will give them a chance to connect larger ideas related to survival and climate change specific to Maine. And they hope new images will be successful in terms of exhibitions, exposure, and sales. The benefit to the public is they see the opportunity to share their project with thousands of people through workshops, demonstrations, exhibitions, publications, and collaborations with nonprofits. They're requesting $2,500 to be used towards materials. So how about we talk about artistic excellence, the strength in planning, specific components of what they've discussed in this application.
Well, this one too, I think I had some questions because I'm not a photographer. So when it comes to this photo processes, I do have a question, and a lot of things are not really explained. So I wasn't really sure when the applicant had said it allows to hand make photos on location. Like, what does that even mean? So yeah, I just wanted to see a little more detailed explanation of how these will be done.
Yep.
Yeah, well, this particular kind of process, the wet plate collodion process, you have to expose the negative at the place, and then you have to process the plate right there, because it's not something that you can just like bring back to your studio a couple days later or a week later and process it. The chemicals, you need to do the process there. And so it's, yeah, it's pretty intensive, and yeah, you got to lug all these chemicals. You have to make sure you're create a structure that is not letting any light in to impact the processing of the negatives. But the artist has demonstrated through their work examples of them being successful doing this process out in the field. And so yeah, I think the artist, I don't know how much space they're afforded in the application, where this process would be pretty lengthy to describe. And so I understand where perhaps why they weren't spending a lot of time on it, but it is a very specific photographic process that needs to be kind of done at the spot, because it needs to be processed almost immediately.
Yeah, I think Annie does bring up a good point that there shouldn't be an assumption of the people that are reading it to know what, I think it's fantastic, Lau, that you know that, but there shouldn't be an assumption that the people reading it know what that is. Just in general, I'm just talking about in general. So that's a good point to make, Annie.
I appreciated that the locations were so specific. I thought that showed research, and I also responded positively to the fact that the artist specified that they've been traveling to do this work, and that they are now focusing on the impact that they can have on their home community. So that struck me as two positive factors.
Yeah, no, I think because this particular photographic process is such an integral part of the project, because you need to do it at the place. And so photographing these places that are going to be impacted ecologically, you know, with sea level rise and other sorts of aspects, like it's a really powerful part of the project. And yeah, it's if you don't know it, it's very yeah, it's something that could easily be passed over, where I think it would have been really helpful for people to have understand more if the artist had in the submitted video files. I mean, there's videos out there with people explaining the process. And if they had included that, because it's just such a long process to like write out and almost very complicated, that if they had included a video on the wet collodion process, I think that would have been very helpful for reviewers to really understand how important and special this kind of photographic processing is to the project, and how important it is to have you know, the materials be paid in order to make this project successful.
Yeah, good point, good suggestion. How is this going to benefit them professionally? Oh, Annie, you're muted.
Well, it's a new body of work that the artist is trying to make. And whenever we have an exhibition in as a goal, I mean, in creating that new body of work, and it seems as if the artist has already started working on this since like last winter. It says been researching since last winter. So already, I guess, invested into this project. So it will definitely benefit. But I do, again, have the idea of a question mark in my head, like the project itself is tribute to the landscape that will be, you know, consumed by water and rising ocean. So it's very eco-conscious and environmentally conscious, but yet the way now that I'm understanding this process is it has to have a chemical that's involved to develop this photos, right, on site. So I'm now thinking, is that the best way to approach, you know, this, I guess, like environmentally conscious project that we're talking about now, right? But beautiful photos that I'm looking at as an example.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the community impact here. How would you describe that?
I mean, I see a few different kinds of opportunities. I mean, one, just doing a talk about wet plate collodion processing, since a lot of people don't know about it, and just what it involves and what you have to do in order to make a negative, and to be able to make a photo from that process. So, you know, I think there would be, you know, interest in that, with, you know, public, just artists, and other people as a, you know, because this is a historical photography process. So, you know, that being interesting. And then, yeah, could easily be seeing partnering with different nonprofits or organizations that are concerned about coastal erosion, environmental, you know, change, things like that. And so, yeah, there's a variety of different facets where I think this work could be inserted and be really interesting to talk about for a variety of different people.
Yeah, the application lists workshops, demonstrations, exhibitions, publications, and collaborations. So that shows thought of how the word is going to get out. I do, once again, feel like if one of those had been locked down, saying like, I am planning to have a workshop with X organization, that would lend some focus.
Yeah. Those commitments are important.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about their capacity to do this successfully.
Yeah, I mean, I think examples of their work showing this process, that they are successful of doing this out in the field. You know, this is something that is, you really need to know what you're doing in order to be successful. And so the examples of their work have demonstrated that, that they are successful in doing this process. And also them mentioning too that they're experienced in sea kayaking as well to get to some of these remote areas. You know, I mean, that's a big part too. So feeling confident that you're able to navigate, you know, the landscape and the waters in order to be able to get to these places, you know, is really important, especially having a clear understanding of what you need to bring with you in order to create a negative, you know, is important. And so, yeah, I feel like they've.
Okay, how about the overall quality of this application? Did they answer the questions clearly? Questions in the budget? Comments on the support material?
I think that this has come up, but the images are beautiful, and I think it would have helped to add some diversity in the support material to maybe an image of this process happening or a video, I think as Lyle suggested, to demonstrate sort of the broader picture of how this is coming together.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, the only reason why I know this was because I was teaching art history courses, and you know, part of it is delving into the history of photography, and that's the only reason why I knew about this process. And so, yeah, for those, this is such a unique process that for people to expect people to kind of like really understand like the weight of it and the complexity of it. Yeah, if they included a video from like Kodak, you know, describing the process, like, you know, in a 5-minute video, that would have just, I think, helped extremely, like, to make this application a bit stronger.
Good. Any final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores for Cole Caswell. Okay, and I'll call for review of Caleb Charland. Are there any abstentions? Okay, the project will merge 2 historical photo processes with contemporary inkjet printing to create unique works of color. They need modifications to their workspace to achieve their goal of making much larger scale prints. Once printed, they hope to exhibit the work next year with Sasha Wolf Projects in New York City. Project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. To advance their careers, they feel strongly that when this new process is achieved at a large scale, it will be very desirable to collectors and curators. A benefit to the public is after sharing this work with students, some may be inspired to experiment with color separation. They're asking for $2,500 to be used towards the material costs. So let's talk about this application as far as providing evidence of artistic excellence, their project plan, or specific components.
I appreciated the specificity of the goal of this grant. It was clear that, they wanted to use the funds to adjust the equipment, and they had evidence that upsizing their work would be beneficial in such and such ways. And I thought that the images were very interesting.
Yeah, I also appreciated the explanation of every single, I guess, section of what they're doing and how the grant will be used and what will benefit all throughout. So that was very clear.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with all that.
Okay, let's move on to how do they discuss this is going to help them in their professional development?
Well, I mean, it's always exciting when an artist develops a new technique. I mean, that's incredible. And for them to have spent this year to really refine and get this kind of dialed in terms of a process for them, merging these two different kind of photographic techniques. That is very exciting for an artist to be able to add something to their field in photography, as an artist to kind of be pushing the boundaries of this medium in some new ways, and then for them to be exhibiting this work will benefit their professional career as well. So a myriad of ways that this benefits them.
And another thing I also noticed that in the proposal, how the artist mentions that they consulted with the gallerist and what will really strengthen the exhibition and the artists themselves. So that was a good for us to understand as a person who's collaborating or supporting.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Okay, let's talk about what's the community impact here? How well did they discuss that?
I thought they were fairly realistic here. I liked how they talked about giving Zoom artist talks to classrooms and sort of the enthusiasm and excitement of students learning about a new process, and sort of the historical relevance. And it is true that, if a student gets excited about something that they've learned about through an artist and goes down a rabbit hole and pursues that, that is a great benefit. That's a great outcome for an art project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, it just demonstrates too that there's always areas to kind of push and experiment and not just settle with like the things that others have just done in the past. This as artists, really trying to discover and push yourselves in different ways. And so, it's really exciting to hear someone be trying and experimenting and succeeding. And I think it's just helpful for more people to hear those kinds of stories, because sometimes it can be a struggle when you're in the middle of it, and so I think for anyone, whether they're an artist or not, I think just that kind of sense of discovery and pushing and experimentation is just, so important for people to hear.
Yeah, I love the educational component of this proposal. Another thing that I would suggest will be kind of like a open studio kind of event will be really impactful and exciting for community and even student at large. It doesn't matter who you are. There's one thing that you just hear what they present, but actually seeing their space and
Yeah.
how they develop this experimented color separation process will be very interesting.
Good idea. Their capacity to complete this, the modifications to their workplace is what they were focusing on.
Yeah, I feel like they demonstrated with smaller prints already how that's successful, and explained pretty clearly that scaling it up to a larger size doesn't impact anything with what already they've established. It's just really having the equipment to do it bigger. But yeah, whether it's something smaller or larger, it seems like the process and techniques that they've refined are easy able to be accomplished, but that they just need the equipment to be able to scale it up a bit larger.
And it was clear from the list of equipment that they're referencing that they've put significant homework and research into figuring out exactly what modifications they need.
Okay. How about the quality of this application? Has anybody made a comment about the support materials yet? No.
Yeah, I think the support materials are great. Really gives an indication of like some of the different processes involved, breaking it down, especially with one piece of like separating it into different colors. Yeah, again, the only other thing that could be helpful again is just that, unfortunately, with so many people not being familiar with a photographic process, the artist definitely took some time to explain, some of the different processes. But I think it's always helpful if they could include like a video of like the two different processes that they're kind of integrating together into this new form. Will just be very helpful. And again, it's just more people are familiar with the processes of paint and not as much of like different kinds of photographic processes. So that would just be helpful.
Good.
I agree that in the support material, there are multiple detail shots. And I think rather than duplicating detail shots, I would again prefer a mix of outcome and process visuals.
Yep. Good. Any other final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores for Caleb Charland. Okay, we are at 11:30. And I just want to ask, would people like to take a break at this point? Would you like to do more? What are your thoughts?
I think we can continue, at least for me.
We have five more to go. I'm sorry, Annie, did you say?
Yeah, we can continue.
Continue. Okay. Tessa?
Sure.
Val?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. I'll call for review of Ray Chen. Are there any abstentions? Okay, The project is called Age of Influence, U.S. National Exhibition, Switzerland. So they've been chosen as the U.S. curator to select professional ceramic artists representing the United States, including themselves, at an exhibit at the 50th Congress of International Academy of Ceramics at the United Nations in Switzerland in 2022. They will also make a short film about their process, an artist's voice, and complete a new large-scale work to exhibit. So the project dates are July 1st to August 31st of 2021. To advance their career, it says it connects them with the highest qualities of the U.S. contemporary ceramic artists, curators, museums, organizations, institutions, and publications. And it will challenge them in one of the highest respected locations to exhibit their work and as an international curator. To benefit the public, this is the international public will have a direct engagement with American artistic visual language through cultural learning and can help break cultural limitations. The artist showed a budget of $7,500, but I did reach out to him for clarity since the grant amount is only $2,500. He is requesting $2,500 to be used specifically for the materials and the travel costs. So let's talk about Ray Chen's application. How was his project plan, specific components of it, and did you get a clear indication of what the outcomes are?
With this one, it's a very impressive project and very high quality artwork. And I was also confused by the budget and what the specific outcome within this giant project was.
And another thing that I was questioning was because the exhibition is coming up soon. I mean, we are talking this summer, and also the artist is talking about a large piece, but yet the examples that was shown was beautiful, but I couldn't really relate to how far this project has gone because the examples were somewhat done in the past.
Yeah.
I think the exhibit will be up in 2022. Not quite sure when in 2020. May 15th. It needs to arrive in May 15th in 2022, and then the exhibit will be up June 1st. So there is a year from now until, when the work would have to be complete. But I echo too that there seems like the funds for this grant would be used in a couple different ways, and it seems unclear to me how it would be used. And I feel like if it were used for one thing, whether it's for this video or for the materials and crating of the work, that would be great. But I think because it's saying it's being split in between two things, that's where I'm finding difficulty. And how the artist is intending these funds to be used.
So Julie, I do have a question though, because you did clarify with the artist about the budget, but there's no written detail on budget after the conversation that the artist submitted.
So at the point that I contacted him, the deadline has passed and the application was locked. And so at that point, I could not let him go back in, but I contacted him to let him know very clearly that, maybe it wasn't clear that the line for the grant where it says this grant can only add up to $2,500. And because he had listed so much more, I said, just to clarify, this is 2,500. Let us know exactly where you would spend $2,500. And so the email I got back said, thank you very much. I would use $2,500 towards material costs and travel costs. I don't know the breakdown of, whether that's 1,000 towards material or, I don't know the difference there, but he did limit it down to those two things.
Okay. So the short film was taken out of that.
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, it is a huge project.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe I'm gonna. Are we now to the next category, or can I not? Should I wait?
So do you want to move on to the benefit to the applicant?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah.
I mean, how grand the project is, and I do think it's a huge, I guess, opportunity for the artists. I mean, this is not just in a local, national level, but international level, representing American ceramic artists, just like a chosen to be one of the few representing American artists. So it's definitely I'm thinking the artist himself is already very established, but yet it's like another level from there.
Yeah.
So I can see a huge benefit to the artist. And then I was also thinking, even though now that he had taken out the budget for short film, I really hope that he will find funding from elsewhere, because I thought for our perspective as a citizen of Maine, this short film is kind of like what we will benefit from it. So yeah, I kind of don't want to see it going away. I hope that the artist will find a fund to fund this portion. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty exciting for not only to be the curator, but to also be a part of the show. Yeah, this will obviously impact them incredibly professionally as a curator and as an artist who's participating in the work. And so, yeah, see it being very helpful. But yeah, with the short film taken out, I feel a little bit better about the application. I think, again, a lot of times, I don't think there's a understanding of how much time and money can go into making a short film. And so I am glad to see that the artist just focused in on just the materials and cost of shipping for the work.
Okay, let's move on to the, how about the community impact and the way that they talk about what that community impact would be?
I really appreciated the international community that is affected by this project or impacted by this project. The opportunity to, have dialogue from many different cultures around the work and around the process, not just the applicant's work, but the other artists that they choose to include in the exhibition.
Okay.
That seems to me to have pretty wide-reaching and exciting possibilities.
Good.
Yeah, I could see some really interesting talks, again, just as an artist, could easily put on a talk about the exhibition for the show. but being the curator for the show and just what drew them to specific artists, some of the things that they were talking about for their video, talking about ceramic history within the United States, things like that, that could, again, easily be put into a lecture. All of that, I think, would be incredibly beneficial for a wider public audience to hear, both here in Maine, but internationally as well.
Good.
Yeah, like a large, range of audience that we're talking about here, engaging community. But yet, again, I'm gonna go back to that video that he's talking about. Yeah, because I'm kind of looking at it from perspective of an educator. So, because not everyone can be in Switzerland and looking at that exhibition. So yeah, bringing that back here with the presentation of some sort will be excellent.
Yeah, great. So their capacity to complete this project.
I have no doubt, like, he's very experienced as ceramic artist.
Right, this is happening.
Yeah.
Scheduled exhibition.
There are too many people watching for him to
Hopefully he's already committed,
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very good. And then let's talk about the quality of this application, and if you wanted to give them some feedback on writing a grant, what would be the top one or two things you would impart on them?
I think this could have been more concise. While it is covering a lot of ground, I know I had to read through it a few times to figure out what exactly this grant was addressing.
Okay.
And also the supporting material, while it demonstrates the applicant's excellence in ceramics, I feel like there are so many things that you could submit to support, maybe like an exhibition list, or there's the whole curatorial piece, which is hard to represent visually, but it is an equal percentage of this project.
Good point.
Yeah, and then understanding our Maine Arts Commission, like this artist project grant, before even laying out such a grand project, would have been nice too.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores for Chen. Everybody good to keep going? We have 4 more.
I could maybe use like five short minutes to refresh.
Yeah, that's fine.
That sounds good. Okay, it's 11:46, so we'll see you back at 12:01.
Great, thank you.
Good.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Okay, I'll call for review of Dianne Chicoine. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I hope so, or close. Are there any abstentions? The project is called the Gaia Project, and it expands upon their previous sculptural work exploring humanity's interactions with the earth. The new element will consist of sculpture and textile wearable art. Each piece will use a blend of recycled and new materials, including paper mache, metal, wool, cotton, and other plant-based textiles. They envision working on this project in different phases over 2 to 3 years, using photography and video to document their process and progress. Project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. To advance their career, it says it will help them shift to become a full-time artist, and it will help expand their opportunities as an artist. For the public benefit, it says by using repurposed and upcycled materials, they hope to inspire larger discussions about human struggles using these materials as a metaphor. They're requesting $2,500 to be used for artist fees, equipment, and marketing. So let's talk about Dianne's, what she's written in her application as far as her plan goes, different components of it, or outcomes she's discussed.
It seemed to me like this artist has a lot of skill and a lot of different ideas that they're pursuing, and the work, you know, there's the sculptural, there's the wearable, there are a lot of ideas, and it is clear that they're excited about diving in and developing everything further. Let's see. I think the thing that was the 2 to 3 year length of this project, in that a lot can happen in 2 to 3 years, and $2,500, it isn't a big impact on a 2 to 3 year period. So the different components, including video, photography, making the work, documenting the work, this was an example. This is one of the grants where I felt like there were many great ideas in play, and it would benefit from focusing on developing one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And I think even having more time spent on developing like a particular focus for the work. There's a lot of broad statements that are shared within the proposal, and a lot of different types of techniques, you know, sculptural, wearable, things of that nature. And I understand the artists because they're working with found objects, recycled materials, that sometimes there's an element of the unexpected that I'm assuming that the artist wants to be open to in relationship to the work, and being inspired and you know, working with the materials that are coming into her possession, whether they're found or given or what have you. But I think it would be helpful for them to kind of have a little bit more concrete idea of what they want the work to be, and yeah, what they're aiming towards for this body of work, because it feels really too ambiguous with yeah, what they're wanting to do.
Yeah, I also agree. Like I mean, it's very clear the artist is very like enthusiastic about this project and passionate about this wearable art and sculpture, but yet the proposal itself was somewhat all over the place. It just covered too many things and wasn't really a focus. So I did have hard time understanding why the artists need this particular even equipment, let's say, to create this work. Yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. Showing evidence of benefit to the applicant? So within the application, within the way that they wrote it, did they give you a good idea, convincing argument of how this was going to help them?
In that particular response, they use the word hope, which I caution against anyone using in grant proposals, because I hope for a lot of things and it doesn't do a lot.
That's a very good point. It's used more often than not.
Yep. So I think there's evidence elsewhere in the proposal of how any of these things would benefit the artist's career. In that particular response, it's not super clear.
Yeah, and then the goal is for her to become a full-time artist too. So compared to the goal of being a full-time artist and relying on your art for your living, this was not a somewhat dangerous move, just, you know, to start on. So
Yeah.
definitely be cautious about that.
Good. Anything to add, Lyle?
No, yeah, I just, yeah, again, echoing the sentiments, just a little bit unclear of just how this would be benefiting the artist, and not having a clear objective or direction of how these funds would be spent.
Okay, so then let's talk about the community impact, evidence of community impact.
There's that word again.
Hope.
Yeah, I mean, hoping to inspire a discussion.
Yeah, I want to see a little more intentional engagement, definitely. It was very unclear how the artist was going to engage with the community, or how to even start the communication and conversation in this repurposed and recycled material that's been used in the project, which is beautiful. I mean, the examples of wearable art that was included in the proposal were very interesting, but yet even in the idea of even documenting the process, I question that too. Like for 2 to 3 years of timeline that she has given, it will be a lot more impactful to even do a performance piece with your wearable art in it, and just, you know, maybe filming that instead of documenting the process. What will be more impactful and stronger in communicating your art to the community, you know? So something to think about.
Yeah, good points.
Yeah, I think there's ample opportunities to be working with, you know, nonprofits or institutions that are, you know, doing recycling, salvage kind of work, and partnering, and not only using their materials, but yeah, doing workshops on how you can be utilizing these materials in some different ways. And again, just the unique perspective of, you know, artists working in this type of kind of medium where you're repurposing, you're seeing the potential of an object, not just like what it was initially made for, but using its qualities in some different ways, and that it can be very inspiring through workshops or other kinds of artist talks.
Very good. So I just want to be clear, Lyle, you said there's ample opportunities to be doing these things, and so they've missed these opportunities, or like how would you
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like they've missed these opportunities. If they've detailed some potential kinds of collaborations, talks, workshops, then it would make their proposal much stronger, but that was not indicated in this proposal.
Okay, great. I just wanted to clarify on that. So their capacity to complete this complete what they said the project was or is.
I mean, as Annie said, the evidence of the quality of the work, like some of the examples shown are really exciting and interesting pieces of wearable art. So it's clear there's a demonstrated commitment to the work.
Okay.
That is there.
That gives you confidence.
There's some exhibition history.
Yeah. Okay.
But yet it's still for a person reading her proposal, still not clear that like when or what she's even looking for in the project. So we don't really have a timeline at the end, but that's very vague.
Right.
So it could be an ongoing project, but would this grant help the artist to start that project, then it will be a lot better to indicate that just is the starting fund rather than I have all these ideas and somehow I'm gonna use it. Yeah. So it was, it's still to me it's not clear enough for me to see the project being successful.
Okay, good, good. Okay, let's finish up by talking about the overall quality of this application. Did we talk about the budget at all?
I found the budget to be a little bit confusing for example, the materials, there's $1,000 for this grant, and then there was $4,200. And in the explanation, the loom is $457, and then there are materials, but I wasn't sure where the $4,200 came from.
Okay.
Or what it was for.
Okay.
To the other jurors, did you have similar questions?
Yes, yes. Even just like, what is contingency fund for? Like, just really unsure about how, like, I could see the purpose of a loom if you're repurposing sweaters and other kinds of materials into creating new wearable kind of sculptural pieces or fashion, things like that makes sense to me. But there's like so many other areas where it's very ambiguous on like how these funds would be spent. It doesn't give me confidence of a purposeful goal and intent with how these funds are going to be spent for a project to be completed. There's just too much, unexplained for me.
Yeah. Good. Any other final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores. Okay, I'll call for review of Kerry, Constantino. Are there any abstentions? The project is called Unorganized Territory, a photographic essay. And the project would be to photographically document the places, people, and things in parts of Maine that are considered unorganized territory. They will explore using QR codes for a dedicated website connecting the viewer to content related to the specific location. Goals are a solo show, print in a publication, or a published book. Project dates are July 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. To advance their career, it said it would be the longest single subject they have documented, helping them to develop skills as a project manager. Also, having this work published would expand their audience and business, resulting in more clients. As a benefit to the public, it says they hope the audience will gain an understanding for the valuable areas of our state that seem enigmatic. They are requesting $2,051 to be used for travel and materials. So let's talk about their proposal as far as the artistic merit of the plan, components they've discussed, or any outcomes they've listed.
I was excited about the concept of documenting the unorganized territories of Maine. I'm not familiar with a lot of projects doing similar things. And I also think a lot of people in Maine don't know very much about the unorganized territories. So that piqued my interest.
Same here. I was kind of very excited when I started reading it in the beginning with where it's going, the project is going, because she also, like the artist mentions, about 9 million acres of the land in, Maine is unorganized territory. I didn't know, so I'm very curious about it. But at the same time, I thought the artist was lacking some supportive materials that can come with it. So yeah, I wanted to see a little bit more of researched background and resources that the artists have maybe found so far. That would have been nice. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I know the artists, I think towards the bottom, I think they identified like 12 or 13 different places that there were, one of these unorganized territories to check out. One of the things that I worried about is the amount of time. I think doing this kind of work, especially going to these territories, and then in the project description was talking about not only photographing buildings, but also people and getting a part of their lives, right? Their daily lived experience. And to be able to build that trust to allow someone into your life and to be photographed, things like that, that's going to take a lot of time and commitment on the artist's part. And it's not just like driving out there for a weekend and seeing what you can get. Like, this is something where knowing that the artist is going to be building relationships with real people, and some of these people that have maybe moved and are living in these territories, I think it's going to take a large amount of time to build that trust. And I think it's important for the artist to understand that they need to continue that trust, and not that they're going in, taking things from people, getting their lived experience, and then extracting it out, and then not continuing a relationship with those people. And so I just, I wasn't clear about how the artist was going to maintain that, to do that, and not have maybe a harmful impact as a result of doing this kind of work. So those are some things that kind of flagged for me in terms of this project. I think it's really interesting and important, but I think there's more of an investment than the artist is thinking about in order to make this a successful project for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I strongly agree.
Yes. So how about how will this benefit them professionally?
I mean, they do mention here that this is a long form project, and as a photographer, to have this sort of ongoing engagement with a body of work, it is greatly beneficial to a career, and it proves to any future collaborators, if you have this, that you have that capacity to engage long term.
Yeah.
And they also mention about this will be the first large distribution of the published book, possibly, right? When it's completed. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really would be an amazing project. Again, just making sure that it's being thoughtful and considered with the people that are involved.
Yeah.
And as long as that intention is there, you know, not only is this an amazing photographic body of work that's being created, it's documenting this moment of time and history of the people that are living in these places, being able to even delve in, I'm sure, once getting to know the people, hearing more about how this place has evolved and changed with the different people who have lived, you know, in these particular areas, and what it means for these people to be living in these areas, and sharing that with the greater public of Maine. Because yeah, as it was mentioned, a lot of people don't know a lot about this. And so, you know, historically very interesting, artistically very interesting. And so I think it has a lot of different benefits and merit to the project.
So how about the benefit to the community? Was that well explained? You know, Lyle, you brought up a lot about their involvement in the community, and it's a very difficult time, you know, takes a lot of time and trust to develop that.
Their explanation it outlines sort of why the work is important, but not the how of how the benefit will be enacted.
Yeah, there weren't really a clear engagement from reading the proposal. So there are a lot of, obviously, I mean, like suggestions and options, like I'm sure already that we have mentioned with other applicants. I mean, this is something that a lot of people don't know about. So when you are bringing in a subject that is unknown, I mean, we're looking at from educational point of view to like just, you know, like engaging with anyone, like people get excited. So I can see a huge audience if it does become successful, right?
Good.
Yeah, and I think because especially it's involving people, you know, from these different or unorganized territories and communities, making sure that they're involved in this work as well, that they're not just simply subjects, but they need to be involved in how they're being talked about, being represented, to make sure that yeah, how the artist is talking about these communities is being respectful in the ways that these people are being framed, and that so it's not just a community impact for how this work is being shared with greater Maine and other people, but how are these communities being impacted by this work as well? And so, yeah, that's really important to be mindful of, that I don't think is really clarified in that proposal.
Very good.
I see along those same lines an opportunity for partnerships that's not addressed here, whether it's partnering with like SALT, someone from SALT that is a documentary focused, whether it's an audio documentation or because something like this is so big, I feel like having a designated collaborator of sorts to process these things with, because it is people and it's people's lives, it's really hard to focus on your craft of photography as well as the conceptual, spiritual, emotional components of engaging with the population and representing them. So having someone to bounce your process off of that's equally engaged seems like it would be important.
Yeah.
Or developing a community partner that you could have a residency with. So if there's an organization within the organized territories that you can, whether there's a cabin that's available or a place that you can return to and collaborators that you can return to over time.
That's an excellent point. I think the partnership is very important here, a key. So even before jumping into the project, maybe that will be the first step, finding the partnership with other organizations who can, come into this project together will be awesome.
Good.
Yeah. I also think like even possibly the main folk life center would be another potential resource to reach out to and look for guidance or help in framing this project. And I'm sure with the 13 or 12 or 13 areas that the artist identified, there's probably ones that, there could be some nonprofits or other organizations to partner with that once the artist establishes a good working relationship within these territories, if there's other territories that don't have these nonprofits, when she goes and visits these people in these areas, she can then show this body of work and how she's worked with people and other things, and that they would be more apt to engage then as a part of the project if there's no evidence of how this has worked out in the past with other unorganized territories. So I think that's really important.
Very good. Okay, so they say this is going to be says the longest single subject they're going to document. So what gives you a sense of confidence or unsure of their ability to complete this?
I say just reading the proposal itself. It will be, I don't know, I don't see a strong completion at the end of the timeline that was addressed, because it was addressed until, wasn't it June or May of 2022? But I can see this,
June. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see this project as ongoing project. I mean, we are looking, already mentioned, unorganized territory in Maine is like over 9 million acres of land. So I don't think that timeline is realistic, in my opinion, right? With the amount of the work that's been given and the things that we had addressed here even today. So it will be done, but I don't think it will be done within that time frame, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, I think, what was mentioned earlier of just thinking about and establishing some sort of partnership or collaboration with other entities like within or near or who are working with folks in the unorganized territories. Having a focus, where I think for 1 year, probably just focusing on one territory and really putting in the energy and the effort to be establishing relationships with people in these communities and spending the money to be traveling, numerous, many times throughout the year, and spending like, not just going out there for an overnight, but like spending a week, there and really being a part and working with people and building these relationships and really spending a lot of time so that you can be photographing these people's lives, understanding the history of this area, photographing other kinds of, historical architecture or objects, within these spaces. But, yes, this is a long-term project. And I think just really focusing on a particular area where you can get some inroads and collaborative efforts established, and really investing in, yes, I'm going to visit this place for an entire year. And we'll have some documentation at the end of it. That I feel like is a more succinct and successful kind of proposal.
Good, good. How about we talk just briefly about their grantsmanship, like answering the questions directly, clarity in the budget, any comment or two about the support materials?
I was surprised that there weren't more support materials, because you're given, I don't know, 10 images,
Yes.
and there are 3 here, and this is a photography project. So I would have liked to have seen more support images.
Good. Okay, any final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores. Okay, I'll call for review of Randy Fein. Are there any abstentions? The project says they will collaborate with Hero Media Arts to create a professional online presence, which includes a new website to tell their story, showcase their portfolio, establish an online store, and produce videos highlighting their accomplishments. Project dates are July 1st through September 15th of 2021. To advance their career, it says hiring professionals gives them the latest technology for the development and maintenance of their website, online store, and social media ads to gain more sales. And it will connect them with educators who want to learn more about their work for possible teaching jobs. The benefit to the public says public can access their new profile video and instructional videos, and the public can now purchase their work 24/7 at their online store. They're asking for $2,500 to be used for those contractor fees. So what do you think of the merit of their plan, components, or what they say the outcomes will be?
I thought this proposal was well laid out. I knew by reading it, even from the beginning, that this fund will be used for the professionally designed website and e-commerce platform, and engaging with people like a broader audience online. And the examples were good in a way that I understood what type of ceramic artist the artist was and how it's engaging with even online platform. So yeah, very clear.
Good.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, it was great that they had already spent time engaging with a company about what it would take to develop a website, revamp it, and also add the capability for online sales. So they've already done a lot of the initial legwork and understand the costs that it would take to implement it.
Yeah. How about the way they talk about it being a benefit to them?
Crystal clear.
Yeah, I mean, I also appreciated when the artist mentioned how like they will even give the artist like a tutorial of how to even maintain the platform online, because that's one thing that somebody creates an online website for you. If you cannot go back and utilize what is created, it's obviously painful, right?
Right.
So
Right.
obviously this professional designer that the artist is working with has already given what the outcome will be and how, it will be used even in the future. So that was great for us to understand this grant money that the artist is asking is not only for this one-time project, but definitely be used for the longer term, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I thought it showed great professionalism also, that they have an existing presence that they're acknowledging needs updating and addressing the ways that, you know, they want the quality of their web presentation to match the quality of the work that they're making.
Yeah.
And that's just such a clear benefit to an artist's career that I thought that they were smart to be doing it.
Good. So then let's talk about the larger community impact.
I mean, I was really intrigued by the how to, like how to videos the artist mentioned. I don't know exactly what that entails in terms of like, is it gonna be free online, like just publicly on the website, or is it, because a lot of how-tos are kind of like a workshop. So for artists' point of view, we do have to make income out of what we offer. So I wasn't 100% sure if it's going to be free online how-to or even paid how-to videos, but either way, at least it's accessible for the audience to connect if they choose to. So that was good.
Good.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think the just the online presence for people to be able to visit and to watch videos to understand processes is important. Much like we were talking about earlier with some of the other project grants that were involving photography, a lot of people don't know like the processes that go into certain different kinds of process of photography, and so it's really helpful if an artist is able to show the back end of how something is made. You appreciate the work even more, right? Because you're like, wow, that took like, so much time or effort or technique in order to like achieve this end product, where sometimes we're not aware of what it involves to make something. And so a lot of that kind of gets missed, where it could be really integral or just an important layer as a part of the object. And so having the artist be able to show how they're making certain items using different techniques, and then being able to see what those items are on sale, it might help for someone to be more informed and desire to purchase something, because now they understand how it's made and how it got to that final form. So that's really important. And it not only helps this artist, but it helps other ceramic artists. If someone, comes across another artist somewhere else, they understand now more of how something is made and can appreciate how the object was made.
Yeah, good point. It helps the ceramic community at large.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Well, so the strong capacity to complete this.
I mean, this is already
there's the plan laid out.
Yeah, and then I think the artist is already working with a design firm, right? So
Feel pretty confident it's already laid out.
Yes.
Okay. So then let's talk about the application, the overall quality and the grantsmanship. I know, Tessa, you started out by saying it's crystal clear.
Yep.
You left with no questions whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, they have outlined all the steps and come to solve their problem by partnering with a professional that professionally solves their problem. and they've teed it up and they just need the funds, and then the professional will complete said assignment.
Okay. Anything else?
I mean, and on top of it, I think the artist also addresses that what will be, even though there's a portion that, you know, the grant will fund, but the rest artist is responsible and is willing to put that amount so that this can be live and going, you know, for the artist's career. So.
Okay. Okay, any final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask for your final scores for Randy Fein. Okay. And then I'll call for review of Michaela Stone. Are there any abstentions? So the project is to create new work and build a display for an outdoor contemporary craft market weekend in Rockland, Maine. The new work will be produced at the Ellis Beauregard residency from August through September, followed by participating in the outdoor market. The project dates are July 1st through September 30th of 2021. And to advance their career, it helps them transition from the traditional artist-gallery relationship to engaging with audiences in a non-traditional settings. The benefit to the public is that they can share their work with the public and expand the contemporary craft movement. It can also educate people about sustainable handmade designs. And they're asking for $2,500 to be used towards the material costs. So, artistic merit, any component in particular you want to focus on, or the outcomes that they've described?
I think the purpose of the proposal is clear and it's good. But I think for the budget perspective, I guess, I mean, they're broken down, but yet the numbers are just very random, in my opinion.
Okay.
So it would have been nice to be a little more clear on dimensions and yardage and etc. Yeah.
Good.
I agree.
Yeah, no, the artistry and the examples of not only the bags, but the chairs, you know, clearly very skilled in both aspects. And I just imagine that, you know, in that, you know, with craft and design, really needing to kind of sketch things out and being really thoughtful about, you know, the design and the materials as well. And so all the materials were laid out, but it would have been very helpful to have included some kind of a sketch of what the booth was going to be. That was not indicated at all. And I would imagine that the artist does this pretty handily and regularly for the other kinds of bags and furniture that they've created, that it would have been really helpful to have seen what the artist was imagining for this booth and what it would look like and how it would function in terms of displaying, but then also like how to be packing it up and folding it down to make it travel, you know, to different places, and how easy it is to set it up, things like that. So I think that was just like a really large void in this proposal.
Oh, good. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, agree. And it would have been nice to see some kind of installation shot of the previous, you know, like, because definitely has experience, you know, in creating the booth and doing the sales. So yes, why not document that and including in the support material.
Good, good point.
Great point.
And did they discuss how it would benefit them? Well,
I thought they addressed that very well, that they sort of had run into this challenge of presenting their work through traditional galleries, and that by designing something that was more engagement friendly, they could both access a wider audience and probably draw more clients.
yeah, good.
Mhm. Yeah, and then kind of starting the artist's own brand, you know, is kind of important. And then this will definitely benefit in a way to market that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very good. Okay, how about the community impact? Did you understand that well? Was that evident?
This
I mean, sorry.
go ahead, you can go first.
The community element that they address is making the work more physically and perhaps conceptually accessible to the public. And that very closely overlaps with how, you know, that benefits the applicant's career.
Mhm.
I thought, like so many of these, there's an educational component that is maybe missed here.
Okay.
'Cause, you know, like, I'm guessing that she's so used to the education that she does when she's interacting with the public that she's not spelling it out here.
Yeah,
Probably every conversation she has with the customer involves, you know, where did this wood come from? How is this bag made? What makes this work special? But it would be good to have that spelled out in the grant of sort of the education that's happening in every interaction.
good.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of missed that idea of, because when just reading the proposal, it's almost as if like a seller and buyer's relationship, you know what I mean? But I definitely wanted to see more than that. As an artist, like, why don't we engage with the community beyond just that market, you know what I mean, environment? So definitely there's a lot of opportunities that she can reach out for, rather than just creating a booth and introducing her product and selling, right?
Yeah. Lyle, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, not really much, but other than just the fact that, like, if she establishes a booth, you know, within a community, that begins to invite other potential artists and craftspeople to do something similarly, and something could naturally grow out of that, whether it's like a sort of a craft farmer market kind of like thing, but like it could, you know, it could help establish something greater in the community, not only for, you know, the artist in an individual interaction with the artist's work that's impacting the community, but it could potentially grow into something even larger.
Very good. What makes you think that there's a strong capacity to finish this? Both, the project says it's both to build a display and create new work.
I mean, this is the project that she'll be doing during her residency in August and September. So she already has somewhat timeline and deadline. So in terms of completing the work, because even the market event that she's talking about is scheduled.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and from the experience, like a furniture design and maker perspective, I'm sure she can have no problem completing, even creating that booth, right?
Yeah, the documentation shows clear evidence of her her skill and ability to complete physical objects.
Yes, no, she's, yeah, the artist is very, very talented in that respect, craft and architecturally. The only thing that I can think of right now is that how I would imagine that the intent of the artist or design of this booth is going to have to maybe change potentially, just for the fact that like I don't know if y'all have gone out to buy any wood right now, like plywood or anything like that, but like these materials right now are out of sight in terms of like how much they're costing right now.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I'm fabricating some stuff for the Abbey, like some pedestals and stuff, and like, you know, things are like triple the price of like what they normally are. And so that's the only thing. I know people had to submit these proposals, you know, at a certain time, and just I think the artist has demonstrated a lot of creativity in the works that they've shown and demonstrated, that I think they will be successful in creating some sort of booth. But I imagine like they're going to have to pivot and change with some of the materials that they listed, or you know, or other things like that, to enact something that it will function for what they want to do.
Okay.
That's the only thing that, I mean, and it's completely outside of their, you know, control, you know, really. But it's just something that we're dealing with right now with the the pandemic and the economy right now.
Yep. Very good. So the overall quality of the application here, have we talked about the support materials? I know people have made reference to the artistic quality here. Was there anything missing there? Or did
The sketch, I think we all agreed we would have liked to see the sketch.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, or just examples of things that she's drawn out or have seen that she's being inspired by would have been helpful.
Okay. Did you feel like the questions were answered? They actually answered the question, because sometimes, you know, you ask a question and people are way off in another field.
I think she answered. I mean, there are some obviously questions that I wish that she would have gone a little bit more details, as an example, like community impact, you know, portion we talked about, but yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the budget or any other part of the grantsmanship? Okay. Any final thoughts? Okay, I'll ask that you put your final scores in for Michaela Stone. Okay, we're closing out our meeting. And I want to say to the panelists that we want your continued input into the refinement of this process, including the program guidelines, technology, and review process. I will be sending you a link to an online survey, which I hope you will fill out and give us that feedback. I will like to thank Diamond for her wonderful work today, and each one of you for your commitment to reading these. I know it's a large thing to undertake, and to staying focused and making it through today. So thank you very much for your service and helping the Maine Arts Commission fulfill their mission. And I will call the meeting to a close at 12:49. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to work with everybody.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Wonderful. All right, guys, we'll be in touch.
Lyle, I might have some podiums for you.
Awesome.
I'll email you.
Okay. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, guys.